Today, we're going to take you through the Great Kojika's House Death Match. House.
I mean, good God, it's amazing.
Come with me to the 21st of August, 2003, Pete. We're going inside Corrigan Hall and inside a house.
A house sponsored by Soft On Demand. The big house.
Soft
Absolutely
demand.
bizarre.
Soft demand.
Soft On Demand.
Soft on demand, the demand service. Do they know, like, soft demand means no demand?
Yeah, or at least it conjures up a very flaccid penis, doesn't it? Right.
I didn't realise that on-demand thing was sort of self... Because this match has always been... They've always sort of said the house comes from a soft film, or it was made for films.
Right.
It wasn't. It was from a game show. A game show had ended, and they decided they would buy the set.
So it's basically, it's a big fighting house that's a bit like Finders Keepers in the UK.
That's right. That's exactly what
you
it's
remember
like.
that.
Yeah, it's one of those sorts of, not like a council house, but you know those sorts of off-plan houses that were quite popular in the 80s?
Yeah.
It's got a sort of vibe of
Prefab.
that. Yeah, it looks also a little bit like the In Your House set,
Yes.
doesn't it? Which nobody ever remarks on. This was erected inside Corrigan Hall for this one show. And Big Japan were very proud of it. They actually showed off all the
architectural, the little figurines
really
and stuff.
Sweet. It was about to be thrown out, this from the game show, and so they bought it.
Right.
But they had to furnish it inside. And the Big Japan owner, the Great Kojika, decided that he would actually put a load of his own stuff from his house in it. So by the time he'd finished, he actually said, this does actually uncannily look like my own house. So a strange thing.
So is that the Great Kojika who's waving around what I presume to be the rights and deeds to his house?
That's right,
Right.
It is. Who is now, at 81 years old, the oldest active Japanese wrestler.
Yes, please.
He is also the one with the longest career, I think, of all wrestlers.
It's probably still paying off the house.
He debuted in 1963.
Wow.
So he's now 81. How old is he? And I had a look at this and I was like, can I find some interesting bits and bobs? In 1966, he wrestled Billy Two Rivers. Billy Two Rivers was the father of the designer Wayne Hemingway. Wayne Hemingway
yes, of course.
is now 62. So that gives you, he wrestled a 62-year-old man's dad. He's still going.
Yeah.
You could have seen him last November taking part in a barbed wire barricade board megaton explosion death match where he teamed with Hiroyuki Suzuki and Big the Ryokan to take on Atsushi Onita, Naoshi Sano and Raijin Yaguchi.
For crying out, your skin is paper thin at that age.
Oh my God.
But then I guess you're not going to bleed quite so much.
When you're 81, if you have a fall, like quite a lot of them die.
Yeah.
I'm going to read that again. Barbed wire barricade board megaton explosion death match.
Nowhere to hide. If you miss the barricade, you're going to hit the barbed wire.
There is a part of me, if I was, in charge of the WWE, I'd go, what's this? He's 81, he's still going. I'd go, get him on WrestleMania.
Just get him on.
Let's do it. Let's have the greatest show on earth. Get the Great Kojika there. Have him beaten by The Miz in 2 minutes. Wonderful time. It's sort of like an episode this of Pat Sharp's Funhouse.
Yeah.
If they'd turned up with no script and he hadn't really talked over what they were going to do through the hour.
And bought like quite a lot of sugar glass panes that would not break.
Somebody pocketed the sugar glass money, didn't they?
Yeah,
and just
really
went,
did.
they'll never know if I just put plastic in it. If it's just sheets of plastic, that'll be fine. There are so many attempts to break those windows.
With everything.
Everything. My favourite bit where they try and break the windows, people are going through them and they're still not breaking. But my favourite bit is right at the end. There's a window right at the top, like the sort of window in the Amityville horror house. And there's a shot where one of the wrestlers has got a bicycle and you can see him looking up at that window and you go, are you going to try and throw a bike 18 feet into a plastic sheet in the hope of shattering it? I mean, what is this show?
I mean, you know for a fact that this must have been the hottest ticket in fucking town. Good God.
Up until the minute this started, you'd have been so gutted that you didn't get a ticket for this. And then the moment it kicked on, you'd have been like, oh, that was a lucky escape. All they've done is they've gone, the key thing is we are building a house. That's going to take us so long to do. We do not have time to then work out what we're going to be doing in this house.
No.
Great Kojika starts this by sitting inside and the phone goes. and he picks it up, and you can hear both sides of the conversation as well. Probably it is better if you speak Japanese, although from the amount of reaction it gets, might not be.
No.
When I see the wrestling, I go, is the scripted stuff going to be better? And I don't think it will be. I can imagine it's just like, hello, and they're going, Kojika, you got to open the door, and him going, who is this? The guy going, Kojika, I'm outside.
I've got a cactus.
Is this guy for real? I just think it's probably that. And the guy does arrive with a cactus, and the crowd do laugh at that.
Yeah.
They do go, cactus.
Let me through.
Yeah.
Let me through.
They take a walk through the house.
Yeah.
And this bit does hype it quite well. Kojika does say, ah ha ha ha, a lot as well, which I like as a sort of setting.
この家はね、3000万じゃ建てられないわ。これはね、1億かかってるね。そうですか。いや、これは見事いいですか。あららら。
He sometimes shouts in English as well. Get out, you son of a bitch! At one point.
Go away, you son of a bitch! You fucking...
いや、笑ってますね。
I think at one point he says something like, oh my good God, which is a really weird thing to hear. It's when they're shouting about the house at the end.
It's Ito's house! Oh, shit.
They start going through this guy who isn't a wrestler with sort of sunglasses on, and they start going through the house. And Kojika, I mean, to all intents and purposes, just looks like a sort of then less elderly man than he is now.
Yeah.
He's in his 60s here.
Is he wearing a smoking jacket? I think he might be wearing a relaxing...
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's one of those shirts that probably fit him when he was a bigger wrestler.
Yes.
And he's not, wrestlers are also very touchy about losing size, aren't they? And I think it's just too big for him.
Yeah.
Giant Bubba was the king of wearing his big shirts that then, as he got thinner, he was still a perfect fit. Again,
Get him adjusted.
You look like E.T. when it goes trick-or-treating. E.T. will always be Michael Hayes for me from now on. You absolutely ruined that. Absolutely ruined it. There's a bit where they're just looking at a toilet, and Kojika's going, ah, ha, ha, ha. And I thought to myself, if you did just come into
show me. Because at this point, no one's having a wrestling match.
No. And this to me just felt like normal Japanese television.
Yeah.
Where you kind of go, it's got things in I recognise, and they're doing a show and they're obviously talking about it. But it's that cultural dissonance where you just go, but I can't understand what this show would be. I can't understand what the entertainment thing is. What is it? We don't have anything like this.
You'd usually have reaction shots from the studio going, oh.
Yeah, or there'd be 3 different toilets and they'd be going, oh, yeah, like that. And instead I watch it, I just sort of go, what can they possibly be talking about? I mean, but of course we do know what they're talking about. He's just going, sooner or later, a man with a very round head going to get his head stuck in there. But occasionally you get things bursting up onto the screen as well, kanji writing, and and it'll just be a toilet. Exciting.
トイレの広たい人ですよ。
いや、さすがやっぱりね、まあ、プロレスラーの皆さんがね、入るわけだからね。
A lot is made about the very big ornamental vase at the side of the bed.
Yeah,
that gets
enjoyable. Enjoyable.
Chekhov's big flowery vase, isn't it? And
quite an anticlimax when that does go as well.
Awful. I mean, all of this is such a massive anticlimax. Every single moment where you go, that might be good.
Everything's shit.
Everything's terrible. It goes as badly as it can. Spoiler. There's a bit where they go outside and there's a balcony terrace, and I was like, they didn't have to go that far, and they have.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, I am looking forward to this so much. And then the doorbell goes again, and there's an American postman at the door, Madman Pondo, and he comes up, he starts smacking a load of flowers over another bloke on a bike who turns up and just shouting, and then we begin.
Yeah.
We get the credits. Again, even just that bit where I kind of go, he hits the flowers and the bloke turns up, it suggests, you can see that and you can go, I can see how that looks. But it's done so much more sketchily than all that. You watch it and you sort of go, what is going on? What are they doing?
What is happening here?
Don't know. And then the credits come in, you go, okay, I feel like I'm back now and reset here. Yeah. Out they come. The titles are great. They show the wrestlers, the matches, and then they show you on the plans, like in the Hunger Games, like sectors where the match is going to take place. And I thought that was quite Battle Royale, quite Hunger Games, very similar thing, obviously, although the courts didn't find so. And I was watching this and going, do you know what, Pete? I actually cannot wait for this. I cannot wait.
It's still good, but it's still not as good as we wanted it to be because we're children.
It was bad. And normally I hate bad but good, because it's that thing about, it's so bad, it's actually kind of good. It was so different and fun and good-spirited.
Yeah.
That it was charming. But it was impossible not to look at it and go, There are 20,000 missed opportunities here to just make it a little bit better. It starts off with a bunkhouse kitchen death match between Madman Pondo and Abdullah Kobayashi. Pondo is one of the key sort of American deathmatch wrestlers of the mid-1990s.
Right.
It's still going. He was wrestling earlier in December
They
this month.
always are when they did Extreme back in the day.
It's
they
sort
go
of amazing,
as far
though,
as
that
they can.
It's amazing, though. You'd think that would be the shortest lifespan of, stylistically. But it turns out not to. Kurt Angle, everyone was like, what a wonderful gifted technician. Absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
Madman Pondo, still going. His Wikipedia does say, initially performing as a traditional professional wrestler, he realised that he would not become a nationally recognised talent. He noticed, however, his friends in the dressing rooms were occasionally watching, in awe, death matches. And he decided that might be the style that he should do that would make him stand out. Called himself Madman Pondo, taking Abdullah the Butcher's sort of secondary ring name, the Madman from Sudan.
Right.
He took the Madman part from that. And the character Pondo, the name Pondo rather, from the character Pondo Sinatra, from The Party Animal, a 1984 sex comedy.
I remember Party Animal, I think.
I've not seen Party Animal. I saw it. I saw it compared to Porky's, which I saw numerous times. Certain parts of that film saw more times than others.
was Party Animal the one with Tom Hanks in?
No. That is a different one.
Either way, sexy.
Fucking Roger Ebert. That is a different one. He named himself after Pondo, a 22-year-old virgin burdened with raging hormones, no sex appeal or social skills. I mean, the deathmatch wrestler in a nutshell.
Very much, yeah.
The film, he creates a chemical compound that makes him irresistible to women. He loves being a party animal, but then he's exhausted and terrified. Rampaging mobs of obsessed women pursuing him everywhere. And he says the line, I have been greedy. I am like King Midas. Everything I touch turns to poontang. In the 1980s, you could make anything, couldn't you? They would just say, here's 15 million, knock yourself out. And you just come back with a film that was called, the Tit Muncher. And they would go, this is exactly what we were hoping for. Thank you.
I'm like King Midas. Everything I touch turns to poontang.
Yeah. In 2000, he sort of goes to Japan, to Big Japan, and it sort of refreshes the death scene there for a bit, because what they have is a big travelling group of Americans who are willing to just do any old shit, just fall onto stuff.
Not to wrestle with fat fuck Barrel Boy in the Juggalo Championship Wrestling. I will do anything not to do that anymore.
Well, Pondo does so well over there just because his willingness to go through glass, get a light bulb over his head. He becomes the American booker for Big Japan. And so he brings in a load of his crew, like one of his best friends from his youth, Too Tough Tony. So Too Tough Tony is one of Pondo's lads. They form a tag team together called Baka Gaijin, which is Japanese for the stupid foreigners. And Baka Gaijin is a thing that Chris Brooks uses now for the shows that he puts on. A tribute to Madman Pondo and Too Tough Tony. He also, oddly, had his own public access TV show in the 90s, Pondo, and he regularly appeared as various characters on Jerry Springer. But Pondo is so popular with the people at Jerry Springer, they actually hire him to find actors to appear as guests on the show. Right. So he has two jobs where he's just looking for talent. So there is something about him.
Scummy talent. Just scummy talent.
Become a deathmatch wrestler. You'd have been probably quite good in A&R.
Yeah.
They're different sort of world you could have taken. Yeah. Abdullah Kobayashi's got a little penny on. And Pondo he throws him through one of the walls and he comes out with a big fish. Expensive fish.
Yeah, I think it's one of those katsuoboshi fish, like the hardest fish. The hardest food in the world is katsuoboshi fish.
Hardest?
It's it's that stuff that you see on top of okonomiyaki.
Okay, the little shavings.
Yeah.
It's like a parmesan fish.
Yeah, it's like a parmesan fish. You don't eat it apart from just shaving it.
Because I looked at that and I thought, how did they afford that? They have spent 100,000 yen on the house to the point where it's believed it was actually paid for by the Yakuza, which again, is not great.
Not a massive leap, I think.
How
with a
did
lot
they
of these
afford a big fish? And it turns out it's just an inedible one.
It's inedible.
That makes sense. Also, the fact it's the hardest fish then makes it a better weapon.
Yes, yeah.
They haven't not thought this through. But he has this big fish. He comes out, Pondo, and he does a weird sort of like crab-like move as well, which gets nothing. And he's got this big fish. Within 2 minutes, they've fallen out of the house.
Yeah,
and they're now just fighting in the crowd.
It almost seems like that shouldn't have happened. You know, you sort of go, that's too early.
They definitely go out too early.
You're next to a window and you went out of a wall.
He gets between the two windows and the door frame. And
the narrative doesn't work.
Through the stud wall. He's just straight through it. And they're like, oh, mate, should have done that. Kobayashi begins the first attempt to smash the window, trying to get at the precious glass. But it's just plastic. It doesn't work. So he's trying to smash it, and then he gets a sort of chair and he lobs it at it. But it's like, you tried this 20 seconds ago and it didn't work. It's not changed in the 20 seconds. It's not going to work. There's noodles go on Kobayashi's head.
Yeah.
There's a dishwasher full of plates, like a stackable shelf, that Pondo throws at him as he comes through the door. And that bit, I was like, that's great. That is properly great.
But it doesn't. It just hits his foot. It's really
everything
bad.
they do goes worse than it should.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Kobayashi gets 2 bowls. He's got eggs in one.
Right. Oh, yes. He makes a big egg.
That's
egg
right.
Mess.
I think he sort of pours something in and he's doing it. And he's sort of looking to the camera, having a good time. And the commentators, who are laughing quite a lot through this, he kind of goes, I don't know what he says, but he goes, Japanese huda, like that.
卵でしょうか納豆でございますジャパニーズフード This is Japanese food がここでやってまいりました
It does end up in his head and he does react like it's, a blow. It's not, it's just eggs.
It's eggs, mate.
We've all had egg on us. Won't fall over. Pondo jabs at him with a lamp as well. And again, it's just that thing of going, no one's really thought through.
No, doesn't Pondo at one point have a big fork?
That's Kobayashi.
Is that Kobayashi?
That appears, and then it just disappears.
I know we're in a house, but we don't have those in our houses. Nobody has these. Big fork and big
Especially
spoon.
not in Japan.
Especially not in Japan, exactly, yeah.
Oh, well,
they're famous spoon dodgers.
The eggs make the floor slippery, which I was like, oh, this is everything I want in wrestling. It's absolutely magic. Pondo's legs suddenly going out like too hard in the hip, Oh, good.
That will have damaged him.
And Kobayashi then just lies on a kitchen table. Pondo punches a cake on him, like again, doesn't hurt, and he then jumps off the kitchen sink with a really weak elbow drop, and he takes the kitchen sink down with him, and he pins him. And it was bad and it was pitiful. And I sort of adored it. It was just like 2 really unathletic children.
You're talking yourself into liking this. You really are.
ながらもやはりまだ終わってほしくちょっと小林が自らですね小林が自ら小鹿手を破損しているような
The bathroom chain death match is next.
God,
Mike Samples versus Daikubo Benki, where almost immediately one of the walls falls down. Oh, it was good. I mean, this is as bad a wrestling match as you'll ever get. It was
just a lot of chain work.
Oh, wasn't it?
But why is the chain like? I don't think you have a chain that goes to the plunger, do you?
No.
In a residential home?
No.
So
why would you have a plunger that you get all the A, no one's stealing it, B, it's your home, C, the thing about having it on a chain means it's hard to sort of wash, isn't it? Why would you want to chain it when you're using the plunger to effectively dislodge shit?
Yeah.
The last thing you want is going, oh, that's good because I can't actually take it out. I just have to now deal with it here in the sink. No good at all. Mike Samples, who's in this, he looks like Brutus Beefcake does now. He's a really uniquely sort of unathletic man, just with a sort of like big grumpy head. He got bleached hair as a sort of nod to going razzmatazz of professional wrestling. I mean, just a guy who has no profile, particularly. I mean, the only good bits are when they go through the walls. That's what you want to see. That's why we're here. He does get that plunger on Benki's face. And Benki, I think, unfortunately, does have a very big round face. And it does fit perfectly. And he puts his head down the toilet, and by flushing it, eventually, I think Benki is supposed to be unconscious because he did spend a long time face down in the toilet. And afterwards, they have to help him out to the back. And I thought to myself, did he actually get held in the toilet water too long?
Is that too long?
He was in a long time. A long time. But I mean, as a match, you'd be hard-pressed to say that was a match. You'd be hard-pressed to say that was a death match.
No.
All of it was just, it was just 2 silly men.
It was an hour and 44.
Oh.
We'd have more fun in the toilet, me and you, right now. Come on.
It was a minute 44. I know you said an hour 44.
Sorry,
that's what it felt like. But I imagine hearing that summation of it and then us telling you it was an hour and 44. You would watch it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
You're like, I'm really disappointed. It ended quickly.
一軒家プロレス第3ラウンド吹き抜けのリビングを制せるか 家庭内暴力高低差タッグマッチメンズ帝王伊藤隆二組 vs トゥータフトニー非道組
The third one, Domestic Violence Tag Team Death Match.
Domestic Violence, what a title.
It were different times.
It were different times.
Starring Too Tough Tony and Bad Boy Hido, taking on Men's Teo and Ryuji Ito. Ito and Men's Teo, two decent, good hands at the time. Too Tough Tony, what a name. So he is...
is he the one who does the tag from the balcony? I can't remember now.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
He is appalling. I mean, this match takes place over the 2 floors in all the areas we've not used yet.
Yeah.
And again, immediately Too Tough Tony tries to break an upstairs window. We've established they're plastic and don't break, mate. It's not going to break.
Stop being silly,
Too Tough Tony, appalling name for a wrestler. I mean, really is weak. You know, Too Tough Tony. It's the sort of, who do you think you are, Too Tough Tony? You know, it's like a 7-year-old's come up with it. He's a very polarising wrestler on Cage Match. Has a 4.19 score.
That's all right, isn't it?
There are 2 written reviews. One person gave him 0, the other 10. The one who gave him 10 said, I would honestly love for him to sign with a big name company instead of being in a lower backyard indie fed. He's held the Juggalo Championship Heavyweight Wrestling Championship for 350 days over the course of 4 reigns. That means he's held a single title more times and for a longer duration than Roman Reigns. I'm surprised WWE wants nothing to really do with this guy.
You reckon?
I mean, he's like a 60-year-old bag of mud. I mean, it's so good to kind of go,
what are you doing?
There is an argument in my head that Too Tough Tony is better than Roman Reigns.
You know about wrestling because you're on Cage Match and you're writing that waffle.
That makes me worry about Cage Match. It makes me worry that one day on the best matches of all time, it's going to be a Roman Reigns match that was okay. You know? And my favourite bit is I'm surprised WWE wants nothing to really do with this guy. I mean, they haven't picked him up. They want nothing to do with him.
What I like about it is he's clearly emailed to WWE because he's very forthright on whether WWE even know who the fucker is.
Out. I mean, it just beggars belief.
Imagine if Vince fucking went absolutely senile and signed Too Tough.
Had him go over at WrestleMania instead of Cody Rhodes. Just really good.
Cody getting screwed again.
It's just the end of another chapter, Cody. Don't worry, it's not the end of the book. He's quite great. I mean, Too Tough Tony, he was a friend of Pondo's and he was also in IWA Mid-South. But the best thing is in 2001, he and fellow competitor Corporal Robinson, they both signed with ECW, but the company filed for bankruptcy the same day as they signed.
They shouldn't be writing.
No.
The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
He is still going after all these years.
He's too tough.
He is too tough for his own good. He's obviously done a lot of Juggalo shows, as you've intimated, in recent years. He had a match back in October. Right. And what's funny is the Juggalo shows, they tend to put him up as because he's the champion. He's taking on people like Vampiro and sort of like more sort of like recognisable names than at any other point in his career. I had noticed on one thing, it said the multiple injuries he's suffered in his career include roughly 30 concussions, a split artery in his wrist, a broken leg, both eyebrows being split, and permanent scarring on his forehead. Yeah, can we truly say it was worth it? I don't know. I mean, this is just a big mess. Every moment you think they're going to click into something that they've talked about, you suddenly realise it just falls apart again. They're just throwing stuff at each other. There's a bit where Bad Boy Hido gets the golf club and he just starts smacking it into the television. It's like sort of...
and then he cuts his hand.
He does.
It's real.
But it's a proper heavy 90s TV. And there's points later on.
Worth decent money nowadays.
Are they?
Yeah, CRT is massive.
Really?
Retro games, aren't they?
I bet Big Japan's backers looking at that now. It's going off. If only.
That's a Trinitron.
He's just smacking it. And I was like, this is like Tim and Eric when they start sort of like breaking stuff for no reason. It was so sort of like, are you doing the match or are you going to break the telly?
The best bit of that bit was like them just hit the most dangerous thing in that whole fucking match.
Those sports trophies.
Was the sports trophies. Like bits flying off. I was like, oh God, you're going to catch your hand on something.
That's what's great about this is you watch so much of it. They take a little deer's head off and you're like, oh, this is going to be good. And then he sort of like goes, I'm quite not going to do with it. And then they sort of stop doing it. Yeah. And there's bits where you just sort of go, that's going to be, oh no, it isn't.
Make more game stuff.
The sports trophies choreography is a bit you go, that's going to live with me forever, that bit. Watching two men whack each other with like 4 foot tall, those big American sports trophies.
Yeah, the sort you'd get for like good cheerleading or something.
Yeah.
Like big, tall ones.
Yeah, are they ones they used to give in Japan quite a lot when you'd win a tournament.
Yeah.
They're just whacking each other.
It's like Andre's one, isn't it? It's like Andre's big one.
And they're just whacking them together, and the bits are flying off, and you're like, this has been done once in human history. Once, where people each arm with one of those big old pageant trophies, and they just twatted them into each other. That was great. The other bit I like, there's a pin broken up where someone throws a pot plant off the second floor onto the first floor where the pin is taking place, and the pot plant hits them, and it bends around them because it falls so far. And I was like, oh, I really like that. I really like seeing those little bits. There's a little bit where someone picks up a photo of Ricky Dozan.
Right,
and he's about to push it, and everyone goes, oh, and he puts it back going, no. But Too Tough Tony does pick that up later, and he smashes it over someone's head, and there's no reaction. They just,
no, we thought this was going to be a real pop.
Why do you make your fucking mind up? You know, it was too tough with that, and your attitude wasn't too tough. It actually stunk. They haven't plotted anything.
No,
and they've just kept going until basically the referee goes, "All right, let's do this." Yeah,
it's a timed finish.
There's a bit where there's sort of like they're going to do a hanging, and the Japanese commentary goes, "Hangoman."
上から持たせ
ハンギングですよ。ハングマンになってますね。
ハングマン
テオが危ない。テオがちょっと宇宙に浮いてますよ。
But they don't really sort of follow through with it.
And it sort of wibbles a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of oh no, it's just gone away now. I wrote, it's not really wrestling. I sort of wrote bum fighting ? It's a bit like bum fights. You know,
no one's really doing anything.
No, and they're falling over a lot, and people are trying stuff that they've seen, and they think they know how to do it, but they don't quite know how to do it. And it's
everything that's done is the first time they've done it, and there's a reason why those things look rubbish.
Yeah. The two good guys, they get whipped through the French windows. Finally, they crash through those, and they just ring the bell. That will do. That'll do,
lads. Thank you.
Kojika then just starts whacking the house with a huge circus mallet.
like it's the house's fault.
てめえら壊しやがってこの野郎てめえら
お前買ったからもう俺の家や俺の夢のマイホームやこの野郎
じゃあ俺が壊したるわこの野郎
Smacking it.
Real.
And then he suddenly runs upstairs and gets that big china vase. And they manage to get that. A bad boy Hito gets it, and he sort of runs down the stairs, and then he throws it, and it doesn't break. No. And it rolls really far out of the house. And suddenly, just on the 10th roll, it just breaks into 5 pieces.
It's the vicinity getting too close to the crowd makes it shatter. As if anything good, as soon as it gets to the crowd, dies.
It's one of those nights where you go, at any other point, had it broken, it might have looked spectacular. And somehow it manages to survive a drop, some stairs, some changes in levels, and then it's quiet roll. And it goes, my job is done. What can I break at the worst moment?
Yeah.
It's like supernatural and spooky the way it breaks. Why did it break there? Don't know.
Eerie.
Creepy. Kojika just looks at it sadly. I think that was his. And then there's a scroll inside with some writing on and no idea really what it says. No one really reacts to it. But the Americans come out and they cheer. Pondo's still got his fish. And I did think to myself, he's going to be taking that.
He's taking it. He's going to shave it.
He's going to shave it. He's going to fuck it. He's going to eat it. He's going to leave what he doesn't finish in the hotel. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrestler's bedroom. They begin shouting, it's Hito's house.
Yeah.
This is Hito's house.
Bad boy Hito's house.
And then Kojika starts hitting it with the mallet again. They say, no, stop.
It's our house. Yeah, it's Bad Hito's house.
It was like a school play, wasn't it? And I felt like it was one of those ones where someone's got a line that takes you on to the next bit.
Yeah.
But no one
can
is
get there.
confident enough to say to them, I know your line. And so they all just have to go in this loop where they're just doing it again and again.
And the Americans are trying to sell as best they can. But it really is turgid stuff.
You'd never think this, but thank God for Madman Pondo and Too Tough Tony, because they actually hold this together, to some degree. We then get the bell ringing, and they decide they'll have what's called a House Annihilation 8-man tag team death match. This is all of the people who have been on the card so far. I mean, he thought what was going on before was chaotic. I mean, at one point, Menseo just comes out with a sword in his hand. And
escalated too high.
It goes nowhere in the bit, but then later you see someone has thrown it into the side of the house. And then you're like, oh, right, okay, so that's where it is. But then later you see someone else with it. So how do they fucking get down from the...
Yeah, and also you'll sort of see it's like they holding the blade.
Yeah.
It's clearly not that sharp.
Then he gets
Lads.
a tiger rug, Min's tail at one point, and the commentator goes, "Oh, hoodie," which I liked. And Pondo, I mean, it's like they had ideas, like with the tiger rug and stuff, but no one had planned who was doing them.
No.
Almost like they've been sitting there going, "It's so cool." Someone picks it up and they're like, "I got a hoodie," and the other guy goes, and you go, "Yeah." And then when you're out there, you're sort of going, am I supposed to be doing that? I don't know.
Is that his thing?
Should I pick it up? No, actually, he's coming over. Does he want to do it? I don't. All of it is like that, really hesitant. Beyond sort of going, for the sword on the side of the house. You're just like, at what point? None of it makes sense.
At one point where they've got these kind of columns that hold up the awning in front of them.
No one's told them they're floppy. I mean, they're like Grecian columns, aren't they?
But they're just clearly just made out of cardboard.
They've got hard ends.
Someone just sort of swatted it with like a tennis racket, I think, at one point.
It goes like a streamer.
Yeah.
And even though they've done that and they've seen it doesn't work, I think Abdullah Kobayashi comes back to it about 3 or 4 times, forgetting each time, just going, I'll take up this pillar. And he picks up and it bends in his hand and he's sort of, what happened there? It's just chaos of just sort of everything. Every time someone sees something, they're just like, pull it down. There's points where people are on their own, just sort of kicking at the thing. Too Tough Tony, Abdullah Kobayashi puts him on like a patio door on some chairs. And I think he's gone through it. And then Abdullah Kobayashi puts a bicycle on him, but he doesn't throw it at him. He just sort of puts it on him and then walks off. And I was just like, this is like some of those crimes that kids do, where they're just like, why do you do that? They go, I don't know. And they sort of go, I mean, it's just kids are just sort of, maybe he's trying to bring him back to life. I don't know. It's so uncomfortable, the whole thing. I started watching it and going, again, this is normally the bit that I like where I go, performance art. But the reality is, I was watching it, I was going, not performance art.
I've invested too much into this.
It's just a big mess. There's just staggering, a lot of staggering. No one's got any ideas how to make this better. They have put too much into the house, effectively. They have gone, the house will do the heavy lifting. And what you realise suddenly is they want to finish this spectacularly by having the house collapse. And the problem is the house is actually better made than you'd imagine. And it proves to be impossible. They get the rest of the roster, the Big Japan roster, come out wearing hard hats and way too excited because they know, we're going to push this house over. It's going to be fantastic. It's just too well built. There's a bit where they get 2 step ladders, and there's a bit where one guy runs up with a hammer at the bottom and just skids over immediately. It's like Vic and Bob. I mean, it's all there, but somehow doesn't come together badly enough for it to really work. And Too Tough Tony gets backdropped off a balcony finally, and he over rotates, lands on his face. Normally, if that happened, you'd land really badly. By chance, there is a mattress that he lands on with his face, although it is covered in barbed wire. And then he gets splashed and pinned. So much potential. They just did the absolute worst with it. While they're all attacking the house as well, a man in a tasseled leather jacket suddenly runs down from the crowd. And he's got like a big feathered hat on like a musketeer, and he's got a sword, and he just runs head first into the house. And that's sort of it. You just go, yep. He tried, he failed, never mind. There's another bit where there's a guy just in a corner with some breeze blocks, and he knocks over some breeze blocks, and the crowd go, hey, and he sees it, and he goes, I'll do a bit more. And he gives the bricks a big kick, and his leg kind of gets caught on the top. It's just, all of it's just like, what is going on?
Shit as well.
Oh, it's so bad. I did watch this, and I did sort of think, I didn't really think, I'm 47. If I could tell the young me that one day I'd just be sitting in a house watching that, and I'd be going, and you know what? Things aren't terrible. I'd go, oh, life's good. And it was a pleasure to watch it. It was so silly and dumb and bad. It was never good. It was never bad, but good. It was just bad. But there's sometimes virtue in just its terribleness. And the fact they tried, I find charming. If someone did say to me, if I'm visiting like a relative in hospital, and I'd said to them, so, what did you do last night? And they went, I watched this program where the men fought in a house in all the different rooms, and then more men came and they tried to pull it down, and there were swords and everything. You would sort of go to the nurse. You would go to the nurse and just go, I think they're coming to the end. I think he's beginning to slip away.
Stabbed a house with a big sword.
But the house wouldn't die. No matter what they tried, so many of them. It was stabbed. It lost its eyes. Yeah, no.
A cowboy did it. A cowboy tried to headbutt
There was a man who looked at the window and he was going to throw a bicycle up there, but it was 18 feet. Oh, no, that's true. Anyway, can you just sign this will revision?
They're stealing my money.
It's wacky, it's fun, it's crazy, it's outrageous. Funhouse, a whole lot of fun, prizes to be won. It's a real crazy show where anything will go. Funhouse, quiz is a race, a real wacky place. Use your body and your brain if you want to play the game.
It's time for Funhouse. Wacky contestants, messy games, the Fun Kart Grand Prix race, and a crazy chase to win lots of prizes. Now here's the guy who puts the fun into Funhouse, Pat Shaw!
And here's the Funhouse!